Welcome to The Power and the Pain, where your past isn't your prison.
It's the fuel for your purpose.
I'm Greg Pihs, combat veteran, NLP trainer, and your guide to turn trauma into triumph. This is The Power and the Pain. Let's go. Welcome back to The Power and the Pain. Today we have a special guest, friend of mine, Patrick Lamontini. And Patrick's the founder of, help me out so I say it right, Kylie. Good. Yes. Tell us a little bit about your foundation, and then, of course, we're going to dive in a little bit of a backstory so the listeners know a little bit about you.
Right.
Take us in a little bit in this foundation, Kylie.
Yeah. It's interesting. Before I get there, I wanted to hit on a point. So, and it's interesting when people say, tell us more about you, tell us about Patrick. And I've heard that kind of question pondered upon for years, like in interviews, tell us about you. And you always try to find out, how do you tell someone about you? What do you want to know? Business or personal? What do you want to know exactly? Yeah. And so I've realized that through this process of what I've been through is that I finally kind of identified myself and what my purpose in life is. So when someone said, tell us about you with this questionnaire that I have on this other podcast that's coming up, I just simply said, I'm Patrick Lamontini. For 55 years, I lived a lie, and I'm a suicide survivor. And my purpose in life is to help other people get through the darkness and find their light. And it just clarified everything. Who is Patrick? And that's who Patrick is. So as a suicide survivor and through my recovery, I was just trying to find out, how can I help others? And what would that look like? And so number one was being extremely transparent about who I am and what happened to me and how I got there. Mm-hmm. Number two, but how can I clarify it in a form of a company or a foundation? And I was driving to Florida to see my friend Paul, who was helping me out with this idea of biometrics with the Oura Ring or the Fitbit watch on, and being able to keep track of your vitals, because a lot of those things can be red flags for you, like your heart rate variable, how much you're breathing, if you're mobile or not, that type of stuff. So as I'm driving, this song came on the radio from Pink Floyd called I Wish You Were Here. And that song specifically is about one of their bandmates or their manager, I couldn't remember exactly, that just kind of went mental. And, he's no longer there. And so they wrote that song, I Wish You Were Here. And there was a lyric in the song that says, we are just two lost souls swimming in a fish bowl, going over the same old ground time after time. And that song hit me because a girlfriend of mine named Kylie, who wanted to be in a relationship with me, but I was too self-absorbed at the time and doing my own little thing. She literally says, we are that song, Patrick. We are those two fish swimming in that fish bowl, going through the same old stuff time after time. And it dawned on me, I'm going to name this company Kylie for two reasons. Number one was in remembrance of her, because unfortunately Kylie took her life back in 2017. She dealt with mental issues for a long time. Her mother committed suicide. So it was just something that she never could get out of. And so I wanted to also have something else as an acronym. So KYLI is keeping your life in focus. And that is exactly what we're trying to do. It's about a balance. It's about keeping your life in focus and being able to handle things as they come into life, instead of just sweeping them under the rug. And then some years later, someone pulls the rug up and all those problems come out. So that's what Kylie is about. So Kylie is about keeping your life in focus. It's a remembrance of Kylie, my ex-girlfriend, and just helping people understand that keeping that life in focus. It's more than that, It's I think a lot of times we are struggling with the idea of balance, right? Mm-hmm. Where we need things to look like this and to be like this and everything is okay. But that's not real life. Mm-hmm. Life is chaotic. Yeah. And so it's about being able to help people by sharing my story and the mental tools that I have discovered for myself, and helping those people realize, tomorrow will come. This is all temporary. Everything is temporary. And that's what Kylie's all about.
Dude, I love it. There's two things kind of came to my mind I want to highlight. One, I love universal laws. The universal law of vibration. Nothing is static. Nothing is still. Everything is in some form of movement at all times. And then if that's true, which as far as I know, we scientifically understand, then what is balance? Balance is an illusion. We think balance is when something is stabilized and steady. Stabilized is a fair word, but we think it's actually steady. And because of the law of vibration, it's not balanced in the sense of it's sitting still. Balance, I think, is an act of constant micro shifting.
Right.
And like realizing, like putting our, like I just was having this download as you were talking, like putting our life in balance is in theory, again, I was just kind of having this download while you were talking, putting our life in balance is a process of being willing to constantly micro shift.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of self-awareness and understanding that it's okay not to be okay, and realizing that what you're going through is temporary. But, prior to my suicide attempt, I had no mental tools to understand what I was going through. I was just going through hell. My wife just left me, just went through divorce, just had all these things. Everything I identified myself to, I attached to, which is another problem that I think a lot of us face, is because we are attaching our values, who we are, to an object or to another person. And people will always let you down at some degree. And so when they let you down or that doesn't work out, then suddenly you're lost because you identified with that.
Well, and even what if I said also like 100% and like an object, a person, or even a situation or a title, like even total non-tangibles, like something we did, like we think that's who we are. And even like in theory, all chapters will come to an end somewhere.
Right.
And if that's who we are, then do we have to end with that chapter? And like metaphorically, we do sometimes on an intellectual and emotional level. But yeah, it's really about being able to put it back together and go to the next level.
What I was saying at the beginning, as far as introducing yourself, who are you? What do you identify yourself as? And what is your purpose in life? And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people could not answer or can't answer that in an effective, honest, confident way, like this is who I am. And I never was able to do that before, because who I was whatever situation I was in.
Right, right.
Was I a realtor? Was I a hairstylist? Was I a barber? And so now, it took 57 years for me to figure it out, but it's never too late. And so now I find it thrilling to get feedback from social media that thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I needed that. My son needed to hear that. I wish my husband was around still to hear what you had to say, because I used to be the most anxious, depressed person in the world, and I never knew it. I just thought that's who I was. I just thought that was everyday life. I'm supposed to feel like this. That crazy anxious feeling like something's happening, but that's just who I was. I just accepted it. So now, and big plus to you, because you've been with me through the beginning of it all. You knew the old Patrick, and now you know the new Patrick. Yeah. And that was a big one for me that I still struggle with, and I think I always will, because the old Patrick was who I was for 55 years. And that entire life was a lie. And you'll find out more about that as you dive into what I'm writing with you on the book. But it was all a lie, and it all started at a very young age. Abandonment from my father at the age of 6, never feeling like you were good enough, didn't fit in physically with school sports. And so at an early age, what do you do? Where do you gravitate toward mentally in order to find yourself comfortable in an awkward situation as a child or even as an adult? You either cower into the corner or you start creating things to make you seem more than you are. And I did that for a long, long time. But one thing about lies is that you have to tell another one and another one to make it all work, because people are going to ask questions, and then you make another lie up. And so it just was this big, gigantic cascade that I tried to dig out of. And it was by that time, it's too late. And I remember being married to my wife, and we were living in a townhome in Fieldstone Farms. And I was sitting there, and she had gone to bed, and I'm sitting there watching a show. The fireplace is going, and I'm like, man, I really like where I'm at. And I remember telling myself, I please, God, don't let my past catch up to me. And it's just a matter of time.
What about this? What about this, right? What about like at that time? Because a lot of listeners like just felt what you said. Okay. I can think back, like I felt part in my journey when you said that. What about for the listeners, and like share your feedback, but for the listeners, like those that have been in that situation, or maybe you're in that situation, like I've had examples where like, man, I like this is awesome, but there's that anxiety of like my past is going to catch up. This is going to go away. Don't let that catch up with me. Like that creates this internal conflict. Hey, hey. And like in theory, I'm going to suggest, I'd love to hear your feedback. Really like peace comes from, please hurry up, let my past catch up so I can make amends. And
right.
I don't have to have this battle and this chase.
Yeah.
Please share your thoughts on that.
No, I mean, the constant battle that I've had up until recent is I was telling myself that the old Patrick died on that highway. So a lot of you listeners or people that are watching this, back March 19th, 2023, I committed suicide on the side of a highway, 840, mile marker 50.8, and stuck a knife in my neck. I just wanted life to go away. And God just said, basically, it's not your time. But for me to process that, I had to tell myself the old Patrick died so that the new Patrick can live. And so kind of going with your point, saying, you know, I wanted that all of that past to be done so I could wash clean and start new. You know, it caught up to me. It was over. And one of my friends, a movie producer, said, you know, that highway represented you running away from your past. And I was. I was running away from my past, and I wanted it all to end. I wanted the pain between my ears to go away. And so then I've been dealing with the new Patrick, right? But then I found finding myself gravitating towards some old past habits that the Patrick had, the old Patrick. So I was talking to my spiritual coach, Jerry Negrado, very good guy. And he's like, I think the problem you're having is that you're trying to wash the old Patrick away like he never existed. You can't.
Yeah.
So instead of dismissing the old Patrick, embrace the old Patrick and learn the lessons that he learned. The lessons.
Let's go.
He's not who you are anymore.
Let's go.
But listen to those lessons and watch out and be self-aware. So now I'm self-aware, like, oh, that's something an old Patrick would do. Get away from me.
Let's go. The absence of this is going forward with naivety. And of course, that's probably going to come with a little bit of anxiety too.
Right.
Like if we don't learn from our past, then it's like, fine, I'm all free and clear. I'm new, not perfect, but like, hey, I'm here, I'm ready. And then it's almost like I'm going to suggest like naivety or shall I even say the word ignorance, moving forward with ignorance. But when we allow ourselves and like for the listeners, like depending on where you're at in the journey so far, it seems like said by me, these are my words. It like in the very beginning of facing yourself, like holy fucking scary.
Right on.
Okay. Like, oh man. And then like immediately after, holy fucking cringe. You're like, oh, that was me. Okay. But also immediately after that, holy empowering.
Wow. Amen. Yes.
And like, just go ahead and go through. It's like a cold shower. Let's just get it done, man.
Sorry. That's, I mentioned to you earlier before we started the podcast that I finally received the actual body cam footage from the police while, they were trying to rescue me and save me. And right on with what you were just saying, I said, there was enough disassociation from it that I could watch it. But at the same time, I was like, oh, I did that. I did that to myself. And then during the process, I don't remember any of it. But apparently I was trying to resist and I didn't want to die. I was yelling, just let me bleed, and it was like, ugh, but I needed to see it, so I could go on. I'm like, okay, yeah, that happened. I can't look away from it anymore because it was real. And even the things in the destruction and the disappointment and the past and all of the lies and the people that I've hurt, I have to look at it as much as I don't want to, so that I can understand where I'm going forward and helping
100%.
other people, because there's people out there right now doing exactly that.
100%.
Yeah.
And the journey of I still have plenty left. I've entered into, if we will, that like eventually when you go on this journey, eventually, if we're blessed enough to get far enough on this journey, it leads to forgiven self. That's where it leads to, because we like eventually in theory, like, I mean, there was a time where I was a victim in my life, and there was a couple times I was the aggressor in my life. Okay, a few more than a couple.
Right.
And I have to look back on those and like, whoa, like that was me.
Right.
You know, and that's ugly. That's cringe. But you know, the journey eventually comes to forgiven self, like realizing like, oh my gosh, now that I see what that is, I'm going to release that. I'm going to behave in this way because I know better, because I have learned, and I'm going to give myself that grace from the past.
Right.
And give myself permission to move forward in this direction.
Amen to that. I think that's one of the most difficult things to do is to forgive ourselves.
Golly, man, this is a hard one.
Man. And I'm still going through that process, because me coming out and telling the truth, my version of the truth. Okay. I mean, that's the only, it's my model of the world.
Yeah. You only know to say what yours is.
Amen to my sister, because my mother won't talk to me now, because she's like, she just, has been watching my podcast and me being very open about my childhood and stuff, and my relationship with my stepfather, an extremely racist man, and just horrible. And so she won't even talk to me. But she talked to my sister, and God bless my sister. She's like, Mom, that's his version of the truth. You got to give him that, because that's how he feels. And so there's a lot of people that are living with blinders, and a lot of people that have got their head in the sand. And as much as I love my mother, hey, you had your head in the sand for a long time. And so and I don't know, I pray that our relationship can heal. And I'm going to do what I can to make that happen. And if she chooses not to, I understand. I may still love her. But there's a lot of people out there that are afraid of the truth, because they're worried about how other people are going to respond. And I think that, again, goes back to the problem.
Well, keep in mind that every single one of us, before we start this journey, the scariest thing is facing ourselves. Yeah. And some of us, sadly, will expire our entire 3D experience and never start the journey. Mm-hmm. If a person has not begun their journey, they do not want to hear about that. Like, if you guys coexisted in an experience and then you share that past experience, you are showing them themselves. That's the scariest thing if they haven't started their journey.
100%.
Yeah. And yeah, go ahead, please.
No. And that was a tough one. So I get asked a lot, like, when did you realize? Well, there's a couple of things I want to point out. We can expand on them. A lot of people that have committed suicide or attempted, I would say the majority say they had regret. The moment they let go of the rail, or the moment they jump, or whatever. I don't. And this is going to sound crazy, because I don't want this moment, what I'm about to say to the audience, as an acceptance to do it. It's not like a green light, go try it. Don't. There was nothing pleasant about it. But I'm glad I did it, so I could be here with you. Because if I hadn't done that, I would be lost still. And you and I probably wouldn't be the friends that we are today. In football, they call it a game of inches, game of centimeters. A guy will throw a pass and just miss this guy's finger that much, and the other guy catches it. I mean, that moment, that split second that I decided to put that knife in my neck, was the difference between me going to prison for 6 years or me being here with you today. Had I not grabbed that knife and put it in my neck, I would have been arrested on several charges that I created on that highway. But I did, and my great lawyer was saying, he got me off on temporary insanity, which I never thought was even possible. But he goes, Patrick, nobody sane sticks a knife in their neck. So going forward, they were asking me, at what point did you feel like you wanted to live? Because when I woke up in the ICU with that tube in my throat, I was pissed. I was mad at the world. I was mad at the cops for saving me. I was mad at the doctors for saving my life. And then after I settled down for a minute, And I'm like, my friend, my coworker, Terrence, you'll love him. He goes, you need a new hobby because you're not good at that one. Okay.
Yeah.
And just to make light of it a little bit. So in that moment, something came over me and I was like, okay, obviously I'm here for a reason. So now what is it? So I prayed about it and I realized, it just overwhelmingly came to me that was the moment that I started to live, because I wanted to know why Patrick felt like that was the need that he had to do, that he had to have that need, that was what his only answer was. Mm-hmm. And so that was when I decided to just dive deep to understand who I am and how my brain works and why I felt that was necessary. Let's get into this. Let's figure this all out. And then I started my journey in pursuing our friendship again, and just like, help me because I want to know. I want to help other people. And I think you saw that, and I'm glad. So, I mean, it's a crazy story. It is a story of redemption. But I wanted to find out where my power and my pain was and how to find it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to know why. And so
I think there's for those listening, I always say, I commonly say desire is the precursor for change. Cause it's the direction I like to head in, but the truth, desire and pressure are the precursors for change. So without one of these two, nothing changes, I'm suggesting. So if there's no desire, no pressure, nothing changes. But if we introduce a strong enough desire, or a desire with enough intensity, something will change.
Right.
So if a plant has enough sunlight, then it will just grow straight up. But if a plant, like, for example, my wife's orchids, are put next to the door, they will constantly spin back around to the door no matter how many times you spin the plant. There's change. There's a desire for more light.
Right.
Or if we to a pressure. So if we make it put something up against the plant, it'll grow away from it.
Right.
Pressure. Okay. So all this to say, I mean, I remember at the darkest time in my life, and I had contemplated and visualized suicide and like internally agreed to doing it. As crazy as it sounds, like the most liberating thing I've ever experienced, because I was that free then. Yet, of course, this is not the direction that we would want someone to go. So if there's the option of pressure or desire, then like we want people to go to desire. What does that look like? And I want to share a little bit. Viktor Frankl said, suffering ceases to be a suffering the moment it finds meaning. So if we're trying to get away from our past, we are suffering this ongoing battle. That trucker keeps catching up. We're suffering. If we bring our past up to us and we learn from it and share our learnings, it now has meaning. Right. What does my past mean? Well, it means that because of this XYZ. So now it doesn't, like, unconsciously, like something just shifts. We're no longer suffering. Okay. So what I'm getting at here is desire. Those of you going through anything, like I hear this like constant, like there's this constant both sides and both sides are right. Battle of, like, I believe you are uniquely qualified to help those go through what you just went through. Okay. Uniquely qualified. You know a lot more than what the book knows. And then on the other side, like, people will tell, like, if people are new in there, and I'm going to use the label coach, but call it whatever, a thought leader, mentor. When people are like really early on that journey, like there's this societal belief, like you have to have your shit together if you're going to guide someone else. Okay, listen, you can't guide someone past where you've been, probably. I don't know. If you can, cool. But here's what I'm getting at. I don't care if you have made it 1 inch past the starting line, turn around, someone is 1 inch behind the starting line. You now have purpose. You now have desire. I get excited there. Go ahead, please.
No, I'm so glad. It's a great segue because I wrote down coach and I wanted to talk about that. Yeah. And so I had this big discussion with a group of guys and I was like, what kind of coach do you want? If you're wanting this, do you want a coach that's been through that? Or do you want a coach that's read about it in a book? And a lot of people are like, I want both. I said, you don't get both. I said, here's a great example. Most coaches in the NFL have all played football. So they understand what it's like to get smashed in the mouth. They understand what it's like to get beat up and injured. the head coach for the Miami Dolphins hasn't put a helmet on in his entire life. He's a little skinny nerd dude, and it shows in their in their record. Okay, so like if someone's seeking out like and they're going through what I've been through, or wouldn't you want a coach that's been through it? You know, you've been through it.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get out of this darkness. You know. And but there's a lot of bad coaching out there too. Like, and I wanted to bring this, I'm not going to bring his name up. I was going to call him out. There's this guy on social media and he just gets up there and he has this little topic and he makes it rhymey and he looks like Drake, you know, and he thinks he's cute. But he said something that really kind of got me going. And I did interact a little bit on social on his post, but I don't care what childhood trauma you've been through, just get over it and go do something meaningful. Because once you go do something meaningful, then you won't worry about that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give you a box of a game Monopoly. Play it. Where's directions? Nope, I just said play it. But how? No, figure it out. Do something meaningful. What is meaningful when all of my life, all I've done is this?
Right.
That's all I know.
Right.
So you're telling me to get over my past and go do something meaningful. What kind of advice are you giving to anybody? You're not giving anything.
Yeah, I love that. And like I've talked about before, and you're talking about having went through it. Like we'll talk about this magical word, privilege. I like talking about. I love this topic. I say love it. I mean, I feel I feel confident in the topic. If we look at what is privilege, said by me, privilege is something that you have received that you didn't do any type of merit to earn. So if I'm born with one leg, I'm free and clear that I'm blessed with both. If I was born with one leg and you were born with two, you would have been privileged with two legs. You didn't do anything of merit to earn your second leg. Right. So it'd be out of privilege. Okay. So that is privilege. And we hear like privilege, like a lot of words, I say a lot, several words can be put in front of the word privilege. And then we're like, this person has this type of privilege. And privilege started to get, in our society, has started to get looked at as a bad thing. If you have privilege, you did something wrong. Right. Holy shit, no. Like, think about this. If I was born with one leg and the rest of the world was born with two, the answer will never, ever, ever, ever be cut one of everyone else's legs off. Right. So the people that have privilege did nothing wrong. So the people that don't have privilege, first, let's like realize that they didn't do us wrong. Okay, second factor to consider with privilege. The person that has privilege, they have no awareness for what you're going through. Amen. So every time you take a step, you look back and you're like, Greg, come on, I'm barely moving. I'm double timing to keep up halfway with you. Right. You're like, what are you doing, Greg? Come on, this is easy, just walk. Okay, the person, if you're interacting, if you have an interaction in this way, the person that has the privilege is unaware of it. They're not fucking wrong. But we gotta go where, we gotta link up with someone that has one leg. They're like, hey, here's what you do, skip it around, flip it to the left, and you get an extra 2 inches, whatever. Right.
That's so true because of the self-awareness, and you are just, it's your model of the world, like you've said before, and I don't know any different, but what's going on? Come on. But this might be a little more spiritual, but I got this from church the other day, and it was really interesting because people want to thrive and succeed, but they don't want to seek out the answers.
Yeah.
They want God's love.
Just give them to me.
They're not willing to go seek his relationship out. I wanted to get better, and I wanted to find out how Patrick's brain works so I can help other people not go through what I went through, the guy behind me, the girl behind me, but I had to seek it out. And that goes back to what we said at the beginning, desire. Yeah. I desired to want to know, so I seeked it out. And one of the things, too, that I realized in the old Patrick sought validation and sought affirmation through other people, right? And I realized that all comes from you internally, and you will then attract same mind type people. Yeah. And so my circle is super small with you in it. And it's so like-minded type people that are wanting to succeed and help others. Have you found your life more fulfilling knowing that you're helping others other than grabbing money, grabbing this, selling a house, doing this, doing that?
It feels so fulfilling.
Yeah.
I mean, you have purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. And when someone looks you in the eye and they're like, thank you,
Yeah. Oh
Appreciate
my
that.
gosh.
It's the most amazing feeling in the world.
Best.
Oh, and that's the validation I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether or not there's an invoice behind it or not, it's just,
yeah.
Of course, everybody, we all deserve, and that's one of the things too, that I did a lot of things for free in the past with Barcade and the travels and stuff like that. But I look back at all that stuff and it was all I was chasing that validation. I was chasing that acceptance. I was chasing, look at Patrick. And I remember when I was doing the 50 states tour and I was cutting hair for 12 hours a day in each state. And so for 12 hours, Patrick was on a pedestal. Patrick was in the middle of a hair salon, cutting hair all day. And tell us more about you, Patrick. Where are you from? About us, And then I would go and get in my car and drive to the next. And I was depressed until I got to the next one because I wasn't on stage 24/7.
Yeah.
And it's an impossible task. It's exhausting.
Yep.
And it wasn't, I realized I'll probably be back on stage, I'm sure at some point speaking, I'll probably be back on, but it's for a whole different purpose and one that's genuine, one that's actually trying to help and heal. And I remember one thing, our mutual friend, Alex, when I started this journey and doing the podcasting and sharing my story and just being raw, he said, you stay raw, stay transparent because people will see through the BS. They always do. He said, you're going to learn a lot about yourself talking about yourself. Have you found that to be true?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we in my mind, I'm like, don't say too much. when we human beings, like it's weird to like, when I say this, like we'd all like the listeners will be like, oh yeah. But like, if we really just quantify for a second, it's not common for you to have time and space to actually tell your story in like when, like it's just not common. And I didn't say it doesn't happen at all, but I said not common. So in the small interactions where it happens, you're telling a little clip of something and the person that's listening is obliging you at best. The other thing is like, so like having that space where you get to share and then going back and not just sharing this one, oh yeah, I had this memory, like really looking at the whole thing and putting it together. We don't do that. It seems crazy because we lived it. So we're like, oh, I know what happened unconsciously.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I try to remember myself to live in gratitude because I typically will find myself going to the old Patrick and wish I had this, wish I had that. But it wasn't long ago that you might remember I was homeless. I lived in my van for almost 2 years at the truck stop off 65. And then if I wasn't at the van, if I had enough money, I'd get a hotel room. And until the day back in April of this last year, I got a note on my van when I woke up that says, we will tell you the next time we see your van here. And I'm like, wow, I've actually got to go find a place. So here was the dilemma that I was in. My past kept me from being able to find a place to live because people will look you up and they're like, I don't want this guy in my house. And by the grace of God, this woman that I had met almost 2 years ago prior saw me looking for a roommate. She's like, I am looking for a roommate. So I found a home, a nice 2-bedroom apartment. I got the master suite. So what I'm trying to, and I got a new car and so instead of me focusing on the things that I wish I still had, I live in gratitude, realizing I have a place to live. I have a car. I'm doing an amazing podcast with an amazing friend. It's just, so I focus on those things and just be grateful for that.
Yeah, dude, that's powerful.
Yeah.
We got to bring you back on for another episode.
I
want to hear a little bit more for the listeners. What's coming up next? What's in the mix for 2026? What can they keep an eye out for?
I'm really excited. The gratitude of you, I got my NLP practitioner license. And so now we're about to start the master journey, the master's practice. Yeah. Excited about that. My brain getting it prepared because I know it's going to be like,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
What else is going on? So I'm starting off another podcast collaboration with you as well. And also with this guy in Baltimore named Frank Ambrosia. He's been doing one called the Comeback Chronicles about other similar stories, not necessarily suicide, but other stories where people were down and out and they're succeeded and lift themselves up. I'm excited about that. Also in the very beginning stages of my own book. The book, the podcast, and everything is all surrounded by the title Surviving Myself. And that's what this really is. We're all just trying to survive ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and some battles are worse than the other, you know, and so sharing my battle is a privilege. And if people get something out of it, I'm that much more, you know. 2026 looks great. For some reason, I have this thing. I don't like odd numbers. 2025, let's get through it. I'm excited about 2026. There's got a lot of good things going on. Yeah.
I am too. What is, do you have a website up and running yet?
I do. Well, it's just my own personal website at the moment. It's lomantini.com. My last name, LOMANTINI. It will direct you to all of the different things that I've got going on with Kylie and Barcade Stills out there. I also do hair still. So if you need a haircut, you can hit the podcast or the hair appointment button. And it'll also take you to my podcast on YouTube called Surviving Myself.
Good.
So you go to lomantini.com.
Yeah, definitely for the listeners, make sure you go on there, lomantini.com. Definitely check out Patrick's podcast. Go on the YouTube, subscribe to his channel so you can make sure you stay up to date as he's releasing more content. And then are your social handles on there for them to follow you? Perfect. Yeah. So lomantini.com. Make sure you guys go check that out. Follow Patrick. We're going to bring him back in the future. Make sure you like and subscribe and tell your friends to come get more of the power and the pain.
If this hit you deep, trust that.
Your pain has power, and your story isn't over.
Follow, share, and send this to someone who you think might benefit.
I'm Greg, and this was The Power and the Pain. Keep stepping into your power.